Good Monday morning. I cannot believe it's Monday morning already. That was the fastest weekend ever after a 3-day weekend the previous weekend. But it is Monday morning, and we are here with ASMM Digital Small Business Connections. We are the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. We want you to walk away from this show every single time being able to apply what you learn here to your business. That's our goal. So we're going to do that today. I'm going to introduce you to somebody. But before I start, this is totally off the cuff. I did have time to make a little banner at the bottom of the screen that says Smart Marketing, because as I was about to go live, somebody put something on my front door. My little Ring doorbell said somebody's at the front door. So I went and looked, and I got this neat little package. And it's a pencil holder, a pencil, and the highlighter. I have no idea who these people are. I've never met them, just so you know. So this is not I am not plugging them. I know nothing about them, but I am going to tell you, I think they're smart. If you are listening to this and not watching, I'm holding up what they left here. But it says, "Here's to a bright school year," and it's Alyssa Crilly. And I just think I want to share this with you for this reason. The very first thing I thought when I saw this stuff was, oh, I should post a picture of this, and how smart this woman was that she created this stuff, wishing us a happy new school year when school is such a crappy time for all our kids this year. And that's what you want. You want to create marketing that your potential customers will share on their social media, because then they're advertising for you. So I do not know her, but Alyssa, I'm advertising for you without you even knowing about it. So good job. Well done. All right, let's go on. I want to tell you, we are on episode 75. We are live streaming, which means you've got experts here. Ask them questions. It's such an easy thing to do. Today, you've got Luke Harlan here. He's a transformational coach, and let me introduce him. There he goes. Hey, Luke, how are you?
Excellent. Thanks, Ann.
Tell us what a transformational coach is.
That's a great question. Well, in, I guess, short, concise way is I help people take from their current state, wherever they are. Usually it's have an issue or a pain point, or they want something to be better. So I take them from their current state to their desired state. I guess that's the shortest A to B. So whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in business, whether it's in health, all of that originates from a desire to be better, to be more, to have something else in their lives. And they're just finding that they're stuck or don't know the tools or the way, the path to get them there. So we're taking them from their current state to a desired state. That's really the transformation for them to become themselves, to become better or acquire what they're looking for. If that makes sense.
What amazes me, Luke, is that so many people don't have a coach. So many people don't work with somebody. And when you look at the people, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Michael Hyatt, they work with coaches. They work with people who are on the outside looking in and can say, hey, these are the improvements you can make. These are the things you're doing. And I'm guessing that's what you're able to do.
Absolutely. Well, remember, everyone has fear and anxiety, and they're their worst own critics. So it takes a little bit, vulnerability to say, hey, I need help. And we're taught in usually a society that, we're coming out, thank goodness we're coming out where we can start asking for help. But most of us are raised where, you do it on your own, you grin and bear it, you figure it out. And when you get stuck, the problem is when you don't reach out for help and you don't look for a coach, then you kind of put that pressure on yourself, and it's kind of a self-defeating negative belief cycle that happens. So you get more and more kind of caught within yourself before reaching out. And it's that vulnerability. So I understand why people don't have coaches, but we cannot get better or become a better version of ourselves without someone else, because the things that coaches provide are that insight and perspective, which we can't see. And a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. So we don't have enough tools or in our arsenal to make that transition to acquiring what we really do want.
Right. It's funny, I worked with a coach a couple of years back, and I learned so many things. But one of the biggest things, and it seems, for maybe a lot of people, it'll seem small. For me, it was big, because one of the things that happens to me every year when we have our events called Burgers and Bands for Suicide Prevention, and they're really fun and I really enjoy them. But one of the things that was happening is people would come up and they would say, I lost my child to suicide and I'm so grateful to you. And they would tell me their story, and I would go afterwards in the bathroom and I would cry, and I would be drained for days, because and she gave me this one small thing, and she says, What if instead you think of it as an honor that they would share their story with you and say that, I'm so touched, I'm so honored you felt like you could share your story with me. Thank you for doing that. Tiny little thing.
Sure.
Tiny little thing. All the difference in the world.
You're reinforcing a vulnerability into a strength. And I think that's the thing, is that everyone has a story and they think they're going to be judged by it. And the people who judge it aren't the people you want in your life in the first place. The people who hear you want to resonate with it because they're going through something similar. And that's really what we're looking for, is that similarity. If I can learn from you because you've been through what I've been through or something similar, then I'm going to open up and listen. And that's the real difference, is that a lot of us aren't ready to listen to people if they're preaching down or talking down to them. But if they resonate, that's why sharing the story is so important and impactful. Also, it gives us insight into who you are as a person and where we can probably come in and help by sharing who we are. Before we get into any of the strategies and the mechanic and the tools, we need to be that empathetic listener and also share our vulnerabilities so we know we're on the same page. We're just one step ahead. That's really what a coach is someone who has that experience and knowledge just a little further down the road that can help bring you with them.
Right. So, I'm going to ask you a question. I didn't tell you I was going to ask this before we went. Do you also work with a coach?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those things because I'm on that self-improvement journey, and that's how I got into coaching. I think we're going to touch on that as well.
Right. Actually, I'll pull up the banner. What brought you to mindset coaching?
Right. So. Well, this is funny. And this is kind of the vulnerability story, is that for years and years and years, I was a strategic marketing consultant, and I had a digital marketing agency, and I was so hyper focused on the 3 M's, the message, media, and market of helping clients, and I would come in as that strategist. Because they need the insight and perspective. They can't see the holes that were going on in their particular activities. And I would come in and, create the strategies and fill the holes. And what happened is that you give them all the tactics and the plans, and they were sound, but there was this disconnect between their leadership and the CEOs or the teams in executing it completely. And they weren't seeing the success. And I'm like, I started getting really frustrated with them, not to them directly, but in my own head. And what I realized was that they're not ready. They weren't ready to adapt and adopt what was necessary because they had limiting mindset beliefs. They had, I know better, or I'm the boss, or whatever, or we've done this before. And then I realized that my kind of frustration wasn't with them. It was with myself, and I was just projecting it. It was with things that were going on in my relationship or with my kids or my business, or I wasn't achieving something. So my frustration really wasn't them. And I think we do that all the time. I wasn't taking, accountability or being aware of what I was doing. And so I realized that there's this fourth component, that fourth M, mindset, that I really need to tackle and make sure I'm clear on. And then I started being able to bring that to my clients. And then I just fell in love with that. I fell in love with that transformational process, from getting people out of their heads into the right way of thinking, giving the strategies and tactics so they can evolve into the person that can achieve all their goals. We talk about that a little bit. And then I really kind of let the other stuff go because it was more mechanical and it wasn't as heartfelt. It wasn't as empowering than changing someone, helping them change the way they think for life, which they can apply to any situation. And that's where that's where my passion just exploded. Just helping people just become the best versions of themselves in simplest terms.
Right. Well, and it's so important, and it's so easy to overlook what we're actually thinking and what's behind the stuff that we're thinking, right? Whether it's the limiting beliefs or whether it's, things we've said to ourselves for years, whatever it is, those things aren't things we necessarily realize are there. So I love that you're doing this. I think it's your mindset coaching. I think it's so very important. Let's talk about what is holding people back. What do you think holds most people back?
Well, that's the thing. That's it's us. Point blank. It's us, because we know if we could kind of remove our baggage and our emotion, we know that there's a playbook for everything. There's someone who's traversed the minefield, gotten blown up. They know the path. We don't have to do that. The problem is we have to execute on it. And the harshest thing is that we have to change.
Sorry.
Oh, it's well, I guess the dog doesn't want to change. It's all good. But anyway, we're the ones that are actually subconsciously, unconsciously holding ourselves back a lot of the times because we have limiting beliefs or there's this baggage in our heads about how we feel about certain topics, whether it be money or relationships or whatever it is. Those are the sort of things that, remember, our belief system is kind of like pre-programmed, an operating system, and we're not consciously aware of it. So when we come across something that we need to make a decision on, we're exposed to it, we want to make a decision and take an action, then it's going to be processed on this litmus test of right or wrong or do or don't, that we're not consciously thinking of, and we never kind of take the time to say, wait a minute, is this congruent with our goals and our vision, or is it something that's going to hold us back? We just kind of automatically go from what it says to do, and often that's not the right way. That's a disconnect. So that's where we hold ourselves back. Really, is that it's an unconscious that we are aware of. I don't want to go too long on that, but I think that's, everyone knows that at the end of the day, if they looked into the mirror of accountability, they're really the ones holding themselves back, because we have too many stories of people with, such adversity rising to the top and overcoming obstacles, that human nature can allow us to do that. But too often it's easier for us to kind of blame the external and not take that hard look in the mirror.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and it's so funny because it's so easy for you. I was just sitting here thinking, and I was going to say to you, well, I met somebody and they say this one thing all the time and I can see with them, right? And then I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure she looks at me and goes, well, Anne does this one thing all the time. So it is easy to look at somebody else and see what their mindset hang up might be.
Sure.
While at the same time not realizing you're doing something very similar.
Oh, you can. Well, think about this. It's like proofreading your own paper. You're going to insert the words that are missing. It's going to correct the misspellings. It's not going to see those things. And we don't want to see them. Who wants to see their faults and their flaws? But that's a change.
Right.
Faults and flaws are just indicators of something that you are now aware of, that you can change and you can better yourself. And it's not a deficit, or so like I'm terrible at, this. It's an opportunity to reflect and say, if I want to achieve this, I need to be better at this. So I'm just pointing out where the corrections need to be without judgment. And it's that mindset shift. Like, it's all about positive versus negative and how you treat it. You can let it be an anchor, or you can let it be an inspiration.
Right. Right. Exactly. So let's go to you have 5 shifts. These are the 5 shifts in your life, basically, right?
Absolutely.
So in a transformation. So tell me what they are, first of all.
Sure. It's just a pragmatic way that sequentially build to free your, basically what we're obtaining is mindset freedom, the ability to have clarity, insight, and thought and purpose and passion behind what we're thinking without any of the muddled stuff. But we have to go through that process to clean house. And we do that through 5 steps. They're the 5 shifts. And those are self-awareness, self-accountability, examining your belief systems, having a big vision, and lastly, having action, intentional action. So it's a progression that clears out your head, gives you the clarity, and allows you to approach any situation, anything in life that you want to achieve through those modalities of thought pattern, which allow you then to achieve the success you want, because it's rote. There's no doubt anymore. It's just a process. But it is an evolution, and it takes some time. It's a transformation. It's part of a program that I run called Mindset Freedom. We call it Mindset Revolution. That sounded a little, aggressive.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, is that we're taking this amazing tool that we've had and we're just optimizing it. We're cleaning it out of, the debris that's interfering with our ability to operate efficiently and achieve what we want to do at the end of the day.
Right. Well, so we don't have, we can't go through all of them, but
Sure.
I want to focus on one, and then I'm going to ask you to choose one as well that we'll focus on. So the one I think I had a hard time getting was the belief systems, right?
Okay.
That was something for me that was very difficult. And once I sat down, I started writing about it. I started thinking about it. I started working with a coach on it. I suddenly went, oh, okay. Right. So let's talk a little bit about belief systems and why that's so important.
Well, first of all, kind of a in-your-face statement is that your thoughts aren't your own. And people are like, wait, what do you mean I think on my own? Well, think about this, just to start where our belief systems originate. First of all of our beliefs are pragmatic. And remember, our beliefs, just as far as a construct, is that litmus test of right or wrong, do or don't, that we subconsciously, unconsciously check. It's that kind of like litmus test where we go, hey, this happens. What should I do about it? What's the next step? And we kind of vet it against the core beliefs about how we think about that and how we should proceed. But remember, all those belief systems, over 90+%, were all put in your head before the age of 7. And when I said think of a computer. You go buy a computer, it already has an operating system already installed in it. And that's the crazy thing, is that you are the similar way because of your environment, your parents, your community, your faith, whatever it was that would put that operating system in when you were a kid. And then you go move forward as an adult, you evolve, and then you never come back and question that belief about money or relationships or being successful or being confident or any of those things that may be holding you back. You're not questioning what that belief is. And it could be something as simple as your parents fighting against money, and you equate, money with discord and poor relationships. And therefore, when you say, oh, I want to make money for freedom, or I want to advance and be successful in my business, you're saying these goals and these visions, but your belief system says money is bad. And we see this all the time in the misquote from the Bible, money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money. But we kind of glom onto these little segments, these little snippets, and we treat them as ironclad. And we don't take an opportunity to question those. And when we do, when we have that reflection, we say, wait a minute, having money and being successful, especially for entrepreneurs, is just a vehicle to do good and to expand our reach and impact more lives and have this freedom. It's not some, myopic rich people are bad, preconceived, belief. So obviously that is incongruent with our goals. But if we have those, we're never going to reach our goals because we have that anchor. We have that just holding us back. We're putting that obstacle in. And that's why we have to challenge our beliefs. And there are plenty of beliefs that we have which are valid, which we're going to acknowledge, we're going to accept, we're going to reinforce because they are congruent with who we are. But there's plenty that have just been installed by other people who aren't you at a time when you were, a kid, that don't serve you as an adult. And remember, we're not fixed mindset. We're growth mindset. We're entrepreneurs. We want to become better, which means we can constantly evolve and then adopt and reinstall those new beliefs that match and marry where we truly want to go and where we want to go from that current state to the desired state, which is simply an evolution of transformation.
Absolutely. And let me share a belief that I haven't shared before, but as a child, I had a mom I had a very abusive childhood. I don't hide that. I had a very abusive childhood. But I had, my mom couldn't stand to listen to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes things needed to be said. Sometimes hey, my sister's diaper needs to be changed. And I would have to say it really fast, because otherwise she wouldn't let me get through the sentence so that she would know something was wrong in our house. I could be saying the house is on fire and she just shut up, Ann. Right. So sounds like a really simple, small thing that happened as a child, but I find myself on stage and, in front of groups of people, and I speed up very fast. I start going very, very fast because I'm like, I have to get this out before people say, get off the stage. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. Yeah. And once I discovered that, I went, oh, wow, that is a huge thing that I really didn't believe anybody, even though I'm getting invited to speak, even though people are paying to come to some of the events, even though people are excited about, have said to me, I can't wait to hear you speak. I get on the stage and go, oh, let me rush through it.
And thank you for sharing that. That's, that is like, the thing is that you're comfortable sharing that vulnerability. And a lot of people have had those sort of pasts where they're minimized or diminished. And then they took that to heart because as a kid, their parents' words that, you believe everything your parents say, and you got to be very careful as a parent. I'm a little, glib and sarcastic at times, and I have to be very careful because when my kids are younger, you don't want to say something where they actually literally believe you're going to, stuff them in the trunk of a car if they don't be quiet, like, that's really funny. And then for 20 minutes, they're in fear that they're going to be in the trunk of a car. You're like, damn it. But the same thing is that you have that, that little kid in you is still in the operating system. The little kid who doesn't feel good enough, that doesn't, should just rapidly get through what they have to say. Meanwhile, think about this. You have, all this experience talking and communicating effectively and helping people in this. And I'm sure, thousands of comments and adorations and reinforcement that you're doing well and that people want to hear what you have to say and they need to hear what you have to say. But you haven't challenged that, or at some point you never challenged that. So that little girl is the one who's stepping on stage, but that little girl doesn't serve you. And we have that little girl, little boy, that situation inside ourselves because we don't challenge those. We don't challenge those, those misconceptions, those limiting beliefs. and vet them and say, are they serving us? And if they're not serving us, let them go. Make amends with them, pass them on. It happened. It's in the past. It's not the future. I'm going to move forward. And these are all these transformation tools as you dig in, and, through our program, is like, you're going to uncover these things, and sometimes they're going to be uncomfortable, but it's so absolutely liberating to just air them out. It's like anything else. If you hide from the bill that you can't pay at the time, it's just getting it worse. You got to address. And they say there's an expression called the obstacle is the way. Whenever I feel like there's something nagging at me, it means I need to address it. It doesn't mean I hide it or ignore it. And I will feel so much better once I do. Good, bad, or the other. Once you bring it to light, then you can create a plan of attack, how to resolve it.
Right. So let's go. I said I would pick one that I wanted you to expand on. Which one would you like to expand on?
Oh, there's so many. I would say I'm going to say two: accountability, self-accountability. And this is something, especially now in these times, is that what self-accountability means is that there are many things we can't control, but one thing we can absolutely control is what we do with external stimuli, what we do with any situation around us. And we have two choices. We can react, which is usually emotional and probably not going to serve us, or we can respond intelligently. And the way our human brain works is we have a stimuli and then we have a reaction to it. And what we want to do is just fill that gap with a pause. And in that pause is where we have our critical mindfulness and thinking, is that we have the absolute opportunity to kind of fill that gap with something that isn't going to not serve us. Think about getting cut off in the road. Like, you get cut off and your instant reaction is to maybe throw a hand gesture, get pissed off, things like that. And those are natural instincts, but they're not going to serve you, because what happens is most people get pissed off. That person will go on. We have no idea. They could be rushing to the hospital. Maybe they just were careless. They're on their cell phone. It doesn't matter about them. It's a matter how we treat ourselves, because if for the next 20 minutes, you're carrying down that toxic baggage of having that mythical conversation, attributing all these horrible things to the person that cut you off, who probably doesn't even know that they did it, and you're carrying that baggage and you go into work and you just vomit out that toxicity onto other people, you're just like, it's this negative domino. And what have you done? It comes back to an expression my dad had always said, which I didn't get till later in life, is don't let anyone rent space in your head for free. Meaning, when it comes in, when a stimuli comes in, choose whether you're going to react and respond. It doesn't mean to be emotionless. It doesn't mean to get upset because you were scared. Maybe your car was going to get, accept the feelings, but then litmus test it against, is it going to serve me to perseverate, to focus on it, to bring negative energy into my life? No, absolutely. So then you take that pause, and then you react, and then you go to responding intelligently, which is dismiss it, let it go. It doesn't serve me. And the problem is that too many people are allowing other people to rent the space in their head for free and to control their thoughts. And that's where you lose yourself. You lose your identity. You need to be accountable to your own self, to your own mindset, to your own thoughts. No one else. And this is the worst thing I heard when I was a teenager from my girlfriend's mom at the time. And I was so pissed off at her because I was angry at something, of course, teenager. And she says, they didn't do anything to you. You allowed yourself to be upset. And I was like, what kind of voodoo reaction is this? And it wasn't pretty mature later to realize that, we are in control. And so that's where really the accountability, but the accountability is scary, because when you start taking accountability for your own life and all the things that happen into it, there's vulnerability there, because all of us have made some decisions we regret, or we wish we could have done something differently, and we don't want to confront those. But if we don't confront them, we don't learn from them. And then like anything else, we're doomed to repeat it. And so we want to change the way we think by creating that gap between the stimulus and response.
I love that you picked this one, because yesterday, I don't talk about church very often. This is not a religious show. It's just not part of what we do. But I was at Matt. He talked about forgiveness, but he talked about it in the sense of grudges, right? He talked about people who hold grudges. And I sat there and I thought, well, I don't hold grudges, but I will tell you, there are these two separate people, and they both have a grudge against me. Yeah. And they should really stop that. And then I realized, and I really thought about it for a long time, probably most of Mass instead of thinking about Mass. And I'm sitting there thinking, and at the end of the thing, I thought, wait a second. Okay, so they have a grudge against me. this is hurting them. I can't let it continue to hurt me.
Sure.
Neither of them are people now at this point because they're so angry with me for, these things that they thought were slights, which had actually, honest to God, nothing at all to do with either of them, but to do with me. And then
Yeah.
but I've been letting it bother me, right? And I'm like, so I'm not any better because even though I don't feel like I'm holding a grudge, I haven't let it go and said, okay, well, that stinks. I'm so sorry they have that. I've apologized profusely. They still hold a grudge. I need to just move on.
Well, and I think you touched on a point that something that I heard is what other people think about you is none of your business.
Right.
You can't control them. But here's the thing is even if, remember, perception, eye of the beholder type thing, if they perceive that you did them wrong, in their minds, you did them wrong. So as a good person, this is something where we don't like, instinctively, we don't like people to be mad at us. That's just because, we are inherently, unless you're a sociopath, we are people pleasers by nature because we were meant to evolve into a community, to have people around us and to get along in a symbiotic relationship and, share strengths and weaknesses and fill those voids. Like that's our, purpose, human purpose. So we don't want anyone mad at us, but at the same time, we can't control how they feel or think. And if we did slight or wrong someone, the only thing we can do is make our amends the best we can, and clear our own slate. But remember, making our amends is not for them, it's for us. Right. We gotta forgive ourselves for anything we feel that we've done wrong to other people or to ourselves, and we gotta let that baggage go, or it's gonna be an anchor into the future. And it's just, it's like when you focus on the past, there is no future, and you're killing the present moment, which is all we ever really have systematically. We only have the moment that we're currently in. So if we're ruining that moment by thinking about the past or letting it dwell, we need to address that. If it keeps coming up again, it's that accountability and then into those belief sets is. You got to look at it and you have to address it. You got to look in the mirror and say, right or wrong, what can I do to absolve this? And if there's nothing else left for you to do, let it go.
Right. Just let it go. Right. Yeah. No, I love that you picked that. That was very timely. By the way, our priest is the cutest little priest. He has to be like 10 years old. He's so adorable. That's all I'm going to say about that one.
Okay. All righty, there you go.
I swear, he keeps reminding me of my kids, because I have 24 and 26-year-olds. All right, so if we don't hire a coach right away, what can we do to work on our mindsets on our own?
The first two are things you can do: the self-awareness and the accountability. The self-awareness, one area is that you got, and this is something that I see all the time, is the negative self-talk. Remember, our brain is just a goal-seeking supercomputer. So whatever command we give it, that's what it's going to look for more of. So if we're thinking negatively, like we're going to have a crappy day. Have you ever had the experience like, I'm going to have a crappy day. I spilled my coffee on myself and then 10 other things go wrong? Well, that's because your brain is serving it up. It's kind of like the lantern, the genie. You're just getting your wishes. Oh, I wish for more of a bad day. Well, guess what? You're going to have more of a bad day. But if you keep positive, say, hey, it's going to be a great day, these things are going to happen, what happens is your brain goes out and seeks those things. It seeks more positive. And all these positive things, everything exists and has always existed in front of us. It's just there's so much stimuli, we filter it out based on the filter we give our brain. So if we're just looking for negative, it's going to filter out the good and just look for negative. And the opposite is true. And one of the things that happens is self-talk. We are our own worst critic, and everyone knows that, especially because we're hearing voices, like you said, and your mom telling you to, keep quiet or stop talking. Those voices are kind of ruling some of your thoughts at times until you let them go and you process them out and you address those. So we have that negative self-talk. Sometimes it's self-deprecating because we don't want to that's the whole thing between the difference between believing in yourself and then having a belief system that says, oh, you're cocky or you're arrogant versus being confident and empowering and knowing you can help people, that, belief in your gifts. So what I'm coming back to is that when you criticize yourself in your head, you're saying, oh, and shut up and get through it. I want you to think about this. This is something, think about what you're talking to yourself about in your head at any given moment. And then ask yourself, would you talk to your child this way? Would you say this to your mom? Would you say, and you realize that, oh my goodness, I would never, this is mean. Don't be mean to yourself. Be uplifting and positive, because that negative self-talk is just going to reinforce your brain to find and bring to fruition those doubts, those fears, those limiting beliefs, everything that is just going to reinforce that, hey, Ann needs to be quiet and shouldn't do this. So that's one of the things that you can absolutely do is practice just listening to how you talk to yourself and changing that vernacular, changing it to this is what I'm going to do, my positive nature, all those sort of things. So that's kind of something. It's an exercise. You can just start being aware of what's going through your head and don't just allow it. Check it at the gate, examine it. Does it serve you? Is it positive or negative? If it's negative, replace it with a positive and move forward. So that's
right.
Just a little thing you can do.
And it is a really important thing to do. I'll use myself as an example again. I am not shy about just completely putting myself out there, but I noticed that every morning before I got in the shower, if I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, I would get, I would make this disgusted. I am disgusted with that body.
Right.
And
right.
I was like, I would never do that to another human being. Never. So why do I do it to myself? Right. And once I noticed it, I don't do that anymore. I don't look in the mirror as much anymore. But
yeah, exactly. I just blocked out all the mirrors and I took out. No, but what you're saying. But here's another trick is that not a trick, just the awareness is that remember when you do that, when you recognize, you look in the mirror and go, I'm not happy with my body, right?
Right.
Make a decision. Are you going to accept the way you are and just accept it and say, hey, this is how I am? Or I want to change it. And if you really want to change it, then shut up about it. Go do something. Right. Don't sit there and constantly nag yourself. Because to me, again, that's that gut check. If something keeps resurfacing, it's our brain's way of telling us that this is in the back of our minds. It's just perseverating. It's the pebble in the shoe in the back of our minds. And we need to address it because we don't realize that all those little pebbles that store up are just draining our battery. Think about it, your phone. It's like having all these apps in the background on. And you don't realize how much it's taking away from your optimal efficiency, from your health, from your vitality, from your positive nature, if they're just sitting back there churning away, because it's like anything else. It's like saying, oh, who's the actor in that movie? And then you forget about it, but your brain is still working on it at 3 a.m. You wake up and you're like, Kevin Costner,
right.
That's what's happening with maybe that, hey, I'm not happy where my health is in my body, or I really need to have that conversation with a friend who I felt slighted me, or I really need to, take this one aspect of the business that I don't really want to address because it's a pain in the butt, whatever it is. You got to unearth those things and start processing them, or they're just going to weigh you down. And it's never one little thing. It's the culmination of you just allowing the behavior to stockpile all those little things. And then you wake up, and that's why you wake up in the morning and you feel so heavy, and
right.
unrested is because your brain is trying to process, but your body's not doing conscious action on it to resolve them.
That is a great point. That is a really great point. I've got to now you've given me something that I'm going to think about as we walk away from here. All right. So tell us how people can learn more about the 5 shifts and and having this transformation.
Oh, sure. No, what I've done is that the 5 shifts is actually a much larger presentation. We couldn't cover them all today. So what I did is I just did a 4-page summary because I know reading is challenging for most, like myself. So I put it on so you can just go to my website, lukeharlan.com, the 5 shifts, 5 being the number 5. I believe it's on the screen, and just download that PDF. It's just a 4-page summary. Also with that is something that a lot of people don't know whether they need coaching or what's going on, is that I always volunteer, especially, the opportunity to talk to you guys today is just to have a discussion, have what we call a discovery session. Typically I, charge $500-600 for this. But that I've learned over time is that, no, I need to get to understand who you are and what you want and apply those 5 shifts and find an area of your life where maybe I can provide some enlightenment, perspective, empowerment. So you can decide, well, hey, these are things I need to focus on. And now I know what path I need to take. Whether it's through our program or it's just through someone, just going out on the internet and finding something. That's what I really want to help you guys with, is just to understand that there is a path. There is a transformation path for you. So whether you're feeling stuck in your finances, in your relationships, in your health, in your business, whatever it may be, we got to get our head right in a progressive way so we can go from that current state to the desired state. And sometimes it's one of those shifts that is just that incongruent. It's bottlenecking, so you're not achieving the outcome. And I'd love to talk to you guys about that. But you guys can grab that 5 shifts overview. And if you have any questions, then just fire them back at me.
Thank you so much. So I do hope that if you were listening to this today, that you guys took something that you're like, I'm going to go and work on this today, because these are the types of things that, although as you're talking about them, you're like, oh, that's kind of a small thing. it makes a world of difference. That one thing I talked about earlier in the show when I said, I talked about how fast I talk when I'm on stage. Discovering that changed everything for me. It made being on stage so much more comfortable. I had coaches over the years say, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. Whatever. I'm trying. But as soon as I look out there and I think, oh no, nobody wants to hear, it makes a huge difference. So I hope you take something that Luke said here today, that I said here today, and put it to work in your business, in your life in some way. I want to remind you guys that Wednesday, we have Christine Gritman coming on. She's going to be talking about personal branding. Actually, I have no idea her name was Gritman. I met her 2-3 years ago, and her name on her personal brand is Grit Mom. So I've spent my whole life thinking, or my whole 3 years knowing her, thinking that was her last name. So I love that her personal brand has that mom in it. It's just part of who she is. So I'm looking forward to talking to her. Reminder to subscribe. If you subscribe, then go back up here and put the YouTube thing across the bottom, youtube.com/Brennan Annie, or you can subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, if you have a chance and you're listening to the podcast, if you could go in and please give me a review, that would be great, because we're relatively new, just started in March, and actually didn't even start the podcast itself until June. So we could use your help. So thank you guys so much. And Luke, I really, really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate the opportunity. This was awesome. I hope it inspired some people, empowered them to move forward. And this is a great channel for entrepreneurs. So just take a look at all the episodes, because you can never learn too much.
Yeah, it's so cool to have so many people give so much of themselves on the show, to come on and share what they know, because I think it does help so many people. I know it helps me every time I leave and I'm like, okay, these are all the things I'm going to be working on now.
But what you said is the action steps. I love when people get inspired, but you got to be empowered, which means you need to take that action step. So even if it's one little thing, it's progress. So just take that one little thing, try to implement it into your life, see the belief cycle, and then it just opens you up to try more. If we don't get the, what do they say is that you can't steer a parked car. We just got to get it moving, and that's with our lives. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to begin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to end it. Thank you so much, Luke. I really appreciate you. Stick around, and everybody else, I will see you Wednesday with Christine Gritmom. See you then. Bye-bye.